My beloved child, please do not ignore me tonight. Not because I am angry with you, not because I wish to frighten you, but because there are moments when heaven speaks with a different kind of urgency, and tonight is one of those moments. Have you ever wondered why there are days when your heart feels heavier than your circumstances? Why you wake up exhausted even after resting? Why something inside you seems restless, even when everything around you appears normal? There is a soul listening to this right now, who has been trying very hard to convince themselves that everything is fine. You smile, you keep moving, you answer people, you fulfill your responsibilities, you continue doing what needs to be done. Yet when the noise fades, when the room becomes quiet, when no one is watching, you feel something that words cannot fully explain. A pressure, a weight, a silent ache hidden beneath the surface. And perhaps what troubles you most is this: you cannot identify exactly where it is coming from. So you tell yourself it is nothing. You call it stress, you call it fatigue, you call it a difficult season. But my child, what if there is a deeper reason? What if the discomfort you have been feeling is not meant to destroy you, but to awaken you? Pause. There are moments when a person becomes so accustomed to carrying burdens that they no longer notice how heavy those burdens have become. And there is someone hearing my voice tonight who has been carrying something for far too long. Fear, disappointment, regret, unanswered questions, hidden wounds. You have learned how to survive with them, but survival was never the destiny I prepared for you. Listen carefully. The warning is real, not because disaster is guaranteed, but because something important is unfolding beneath the surface of your life. Something that cannot be ignored much longer. Write in the comments, "I am listening, Lord," because what I am about to reveal next may explain why your spirit has felt so unsettled lately. And my child, the danger is much closer than you think. Pause. What if the greatest threat to your future is not around you, but already growing quietly within you? And that is what I must reveal next. My beloved child, the danger is not where you have been looking. It is not hiding in every stranger. It is not waiting behind every closed door. It is not found in every obstacle standing before you. The danger is much closer, closer than the problems you fear, closer than the people who have disappointed you, closer than the circumstances that keep you awake at night. And that is why so many souls fail to recognize it until it has already taken root. Pause. There is a person listening right now who believes their greatest battle is happening around them. You think the struggle is financial. You think the struggle is relational. You think the struggle is physical. But my child, the enemy rarely begins by attacking your circumstances. He begins by attacking your perspective. Because if he can influence what you believe, he can influence what you choose. And if he can influence he can slowly influence the direction of your life. That is how darkness often works. Not through sudden destruction, but through silent erosion, little by little, day after day, thought after thought, fear after fear. Pause. There is a soul hearing this tonight who has recently begun questioning things they once knew with certainty. Your confidence feels weaker. Your peace feels distant. Your hope feels fragile. The dreams I place inside your heart no longer feel as alive as they once did. And you do not fully understand why. You tell yourself, "I'm just tired. I just need more time. It will get better eventually." Perhaps it will, but perhaps there is something deeper happening, because the enemy does not always try to destroy faith immediately. Sometimes he simply tries to exhaust it. He whispers, "Wait a little longer, pray later, obey tomorrow, forgive another day, change another time, do not delay." Listen carefully, do not delay, because many destinies are not stolen through rebellion. They are stolen through postponement. Pause. There are moments when darkness does not need you to run toward evil. It only needs you to stand still long enough to miss what heaven is asking you to do. And this is why I am speaking tonight. Because something has been attempting to gain agreement from your heart. Not through force, not through fear alone, but through weariness, through discouragement, through emotional exhaustion. The warning is real. The warning is real. The warning is real. Because every day you ignore what is happening within your spirit, the roots grow deeper. And my child, there is something even more dangerous than the attack itself. Something the enemy desperately hopes you never discover. Pause. Because once you see it, his power begins to break. And that is what I will reveal next. My beloved child, do you truly believe it is an accident that you are here tonight? Out of all the voices competing for your attention, out of all the messages you could have ignored, out of all the moments you could have been somewhere else, you are hearing these words now. And deep inside, a part of you already knows that this is not random, Pause, there is a soul listening to me right now who has spent months searching for answers. Not always with words, not always through prayer, but through silent questions hidden inside the heart. Questions nobody else could hear. Questions asked in lonely moments. Questions whispered through tears. Questions buried beneath exhaustion. And even when you thought heaven was silent, I heard every one of them. I heard the prayers you spoke aloud. I heard the prayers you never finished. I even heard the prayers you were too tired to pray. My child, I have not forgotten you, not for a single moment. Pause, there is a person hearing this tonight who has been wondering why life feels so different lately. Why certain relationships have changed. Why certain doors have closed. Why certain people have disappeared. Why old comforts no longer satisfy your soul. You thought something was being taken from you. But what if I was preparing you? What if what feels like loss is actually separation? What if I have been removing distractions that could not follow you into your next season? Listen carefully, because this is important. Many people mistake preparation for punishment. Many people mistake pruning for abandonment. Many people walk away from the very process that was about to transform them. Do not make that mistake. Pause, the enemy wants you to believe that you are forgotten. I want you to understand that you are being positioned. The enemy wants you to believe that your best days are behind you. I want you to know that some of the most important moments of your life have not even begun. The enemy wants you to see delay. I want you to see preparation. The enemy wants you to see rejection. I want you to see protection. Because, my child, there are things I have kept from you that would have harmed you. There are doors I refuse to open because they would have wounded you. There are paths I blocked because they would have led you away from your purpose. And one day, you will thank me for the prayers I did not answer. Pause, there is a reason this message found you tonight. Because a cycle is approaching its end. A season is shifting. A battle is being exposed. And a truth is about to come into the light. The truth that darkness has been hiding from you for far too long. But, my child, the enemy's greatest strategy has remained hidden until now. And that is exactly what I must expose next. Pause, because once you understand how he has been operating, you will never see your struggle the same way again. My beloved child, the enemy made sure you noticed the storm, because as long as you were staring at the storm, you would never notice what was happening beneath it. And that has always been his strategy, not merely to attack your life, but to distract your attention. Pause, there is a person listening right now who has spent countless hours worrying about circumstances. You worried about money. You worried about relationships. You worried about the future. You worried about problems that have not even happened yet. And while your eyes remained fixed on those fears, something far more dangerous was quietly taking place. Because the enemy's greatest weapon is not always suffering. Sometimes it is distraction. Sometimes it is confusion. Sometimes it is emotional exhaustion. And sometimes it is simply keeping your focus in the wrong place. Listen carefully, because this may change the way you see everything. The enemy does not need to destroy your faith overnight. He only needs to keep you distracted long enough that you stop feeding it. He knows that neglected faith eventually becomes weakened faith, and weakened faith becomes vulnerable faith. Pause, there is a soul hearing this tonight who has slowly become overwhelmed. Not because you stopped loving me, not because you stopped believing, but because life became loud. The responsibilities multiplied. The disappointments accumulated. The wounds remain unhealed. The pressure never seemed to end. And little by little, without realizing it, your spiritual life moved further into the background. Prayer became shorter. Trust became harder. Peace became rare. Hope became fragile. And darkness quietly celebrated every step, because this is what the enemy understands. If he cannot make you hate God, he will try to make you forget him. If he cannot convince you to rebel, he will try to keep you distracted. If he cannot steal your destiny, he will attempt to delay. Do not delay. Listen carefully. Do not delay. Pause, the enemy also knows something else. He knows that exhausted people often make fearful decisions. Fearful decisions create painful consequences. Painful consequences create deeper discouragement, and discouragement creates more fear. Thus the cycle continues, again and again and again, until a person begins believing that this cycle is simply who they are. But, my child, that is a lie. You were never created to live trapped inside fear. You were never created to live beneath anxiety. You were never created to survive on emotional crumbs while carrying heavenly purpose. The warning is real, because the enemy's goal has never been merely to hurt you. His goal has been to make you doubt who you are, to make you forget whose you are, to make you question why I have spoken over your life. Pause, but the enemy made one mistake. One mistake that changes everything. He assumed you would never recognize what he was doing. He assumed you would never hear this message. He assumed you would remain asleep to the battle. But tonight, the light is exposing what darkness tried to hide. And once the light enters, the lies begin to lose their power. Because the signs have been there all along. The signs you have been overlooking. The signs I must reveal next. My beloved child, the signs were never completely hidden. They were simply quiet, and because they were quiet, you assumed they were unimportant. But tonight I ask you to look honestly at your heart. Not at the people around you, not at your circumstances, not at the mistakes of others. Look within, because there is a person listening right now who has been experiencing signs they cannot fully explain. Signs that something inside them has been struggling. Signs that their soul has been carrying more than it was ever meant to carry alone. Pause. Perhaps one of those signs is the heaviness. Not physical heaviness, not even emotional sadness. Something deeper, a weight that follows you into the morning. A weight that sits beside you at night. A weight that remains even when everything appears fine on the surface. There is a soul hearing this tonight who smiles in public, yet feels strangely empty in private. You laugh, you work, you speak with people, you continue moving through life. That deep inside, something feels disconnected, as though part of your spirit has grown tired of pretending. Listen carefully, because this matters. The warning is real. Pause. Another sign is anxiety that seems to appear without reason. You tell yourself, I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I can't relax. I don't know why my mind won't stop racing. But my child, sometimes anxiety is not merely fear of the future. Sometimes it is the symptom of a soul carrying burdens it was never designed to carry. There is someone listening right now who has been trying to control everything, every outcome, every conversation, every possibility, every uncertainty. And the harder you try to control it all, the more exhausted you become, because you were never meant to carry the weight of being your own God. Pause. Perhaps another sign is the loss of joy. Not happiness, joy. The kind of joy that once flowed naturally. The kind of joy that once made your heart feel alive. The kind of joy that once gave you hope. Not everything feels heavier, more difficult, more draining, more exhausting, and you have become so accustomed to this feeling that you no longer question it. But my child, this is not the life I created you for. Pause. There is a person hearing this tonight who has also noticed another sign. You have become increasingly isolated. Not because nobody loves you, not because nobody cares, but because pain has convinced you that withdrawing is safer. You answer fewer messages. You avoid difficult conversations. You keep your struggles hidden. You tell everyone, I'm fine, even when you are not. And darkness loves isolation, because isolation allows lies to grow without challenge. Isolation allows fear to echo without resistance. Isolation allows wounds to deepen unseen. Listen carefully. The warning is real. Do not ignore these signs. Pause, because these signs are not the greatest danger. They are only the evidence. Evidence that a deeper battle has been taking place beneath the surface. And now, my child, you stand before a decision that will determine which direction your future begins to move, because everything changes with the choice you make next. And that is what I must reveal to you, my beloved child. Every battle eventually arrives at a moment of decision, a moment when fear and faith stand before one another, a moment when darkness waits for your agreement, a moment when heaven waits for your response. And whether you realize it or not, you are standing in that moment right now. Pause. There is a person listening to me tonight who believes they have no control over what is happening. You feel trapped, overwhelmed, outnumbered. You look at your circumstances and think, what can I possibly do? But my child, the enemy has hidden an important truth from you, a truth he desperately hopes you never discover. He cannot force you to walk away from me. He cannot force you to abandon your destiny. He cannot force you to surrender your future. He can only tempt. He can only deceive. He can only persuade. The final decision still belongs to you. Listen carefully, because this changes everything. Pause. The enemy's greatest victories do not happen when he becomes stronger. They happen when people unknowingly agree with his lies. When fear says, you will never recover, and you agree. When shame says, you are too broken, and you agree. When discouragement says, nothing will ever change, and you agree. When delay whispers, you can obey later, and you agree. My child, every agreement becomes a doorway, and darkness is always searching for open doors. The warning is real. Do not delay. The warning is real. Do not delay. Pause. There is a soul hearing this tonight who has been standing between two voices. One voice speaks fear. The other speaks faith. One voice speaks scarcity. The other speaks provision. One voice speaks defeat. The other speaks victory. One voice speaks death. The other speaks life. And every day you choose which voice becomes stronger. Not because the voice grows louder, but because attention becomes agreement. Agreement becomes belief. Belief becomes action. Action becomes destiny. Pause. This is why I tell you, choose life. Choose life even when fear feels more convincing. Choose life even when circumstances appear hopeless. Choose life even when your emotions disagree. Because faith is not the absence of fear. Faith is choosing my voice above fear. There is someone listening right now who has delayed a decision for far too long. A step of obedience, a conversation, a surrender, a forgiveness, a change. You keep waiting until you feel ready. But my child, readiness often comes after obedience, not before it. Pause. Tonight I place before you two paths. Faith or fear, trust or control, obedience or delay, life or death. And I already know what darkness hopes you will choose. But I also know what I created you for. Write in the comments, I choose life. Write it with faith. Write it as a declaration. Write it as a decision. Because the moment you stop agreeing with darkness, the attack begins to lose its authority. And once that authority is broken, the next step is learning how to break its hold completely. That is what I must teach you next. Because there is a prayer that darkness cannot withstand. My beloved child, the moment you choose life, the battle begins to change. Not because the enemy suddenly disappears. Not because every problem instantly vanishes. But because darkness loses power when it is brought into the light. And tonight, I am calling you into the light. Pause. There is a soul listening right now who has spent too much time fighting alone. You have carried burdens in silence. You have hidden wounds behind smiles. You have battled thoughts that nobody else knows about. You have tried to be strong, tried to endure, tried to hold everything together. But my child, this was never a battle you were meant to fight by yourself. Listen carefully, because freedom begins with honesty. Not honesty with other people, honesty with me. There is nothing you can confess that I do not already know. There is no wound I have not seen, no fear I have not heard, no tear I have not counted. And tonight, I invite you to stop hiding. Pause. Say this within your heart. Lord, I acknowledge what has been happening inside me. I acknowledge the fear. I acknowledge the anxiety. I acknowledge the discouragement. I acknowledge the burdens I have carried for too long. I stop pretending. I stop running. I bring everything into your presence. My child, recognition is where healing begins. Because what remains hidden cannot be healed. Pause. Now continue. Lord, forgive me for every moment I agreed with fear instead of faith. Forgive me for every lie I accepted as truth. Forgive me for every time I trusted my fears more than I trusted your promises. Forgive me for every place where doubt became stronger than obedience. My beloved child, this is not condemnation. This is freedom, because repentance is not punishment. Repentance is returning home. Pause. Now listen carefully, because this is where chains begin to break. Declare, in the name of Jesus Christ, I renounce every lie that has ruled my thoughts. I renounce fear. I renounce hopelessness. I renounce shame. I renounce every agreement I have made with darkness. I break every attachment to discouragement. I reject every voice that speaks against God's. The warning is real, but so is my power. The attack is real, but so is my authority. The darkness is real, but my light is greater. Pause. Now replace what darkness tried to steal. Declare, I receive God's peace. I receive God's wisdom. I receive God's strength. I receive God's protection. I receive God's direction. I receive God's truth. I receive God's presence. There is a person hearing this tonight who can already feel something shifting, not because of emotion, not because of imagination, but because truth is entering places where lies once lived, and where truth enters, bondage begins to leave. Pause. Write in the comments, Jesus is my refuge. Write it with faith. Write it as a declaration. Write it as a weapon against fear. Because what is happening right now is only the beginning. The attack is weakening. The chains are loosening. The darkness is retreating. And now, my child, I must show you something beautiful. Something the enemy never wanted you to remember. The protection that has surrounded you all along. And that is what I will reveal next. My beloved child, for a moment, stop focusing on what has been attacking you. Stop focusing on the darkness. Stop focusing on the fear. Stop focusing on the battles. Because there is something I need you to remember tonight. Something the enemy has worked very hard to make you forget. You are not fighting alone. Pause. There is a soul listening right now who believes they have barely survived this season. You look back and see the pain, the disappointments, the betrayals, the nights you cried, the doors that closed, the battles that drained you, and because those memories are so vivid, you assume you were abandoned. But my child, if you had truly been abandoned, you would not be hearing my voice right now. You would not have survived what tried to break you. You would not have made it through the storms that should have destroyed you. Listen carefully, because this is important. You have spent so much time looking at what wounded you, that you forgot to notice what protected you. Pause, there are dangers you never saw, attacks you never recognized, plans formed against you that never succeeded, doors that should have led to disaster but somehow never opened, people who intended harm yet never gained the power they desire. There were moments when darkness thought it had won, moments when the enemy believed your faith would collapse, moments when fear surrounded you from every direction, yet you are still here. Why? Because I was there. I was there when nobody else knew what you were carrying. I was there when you cried in secret. I was there when anxiety stole your sleep. I was there when confusion clouded your thoughts. I was there when you felt completely alone, and I never left, not for a moment. Pause, there is a person hearing this tonight who needs to understand something. Protection does not always look like prevention. Sometimes my protection appears as preservation. Sometimes I do not remove the storm immediately. Sometimes I preserve you inside it, just as I protected Daniel in the lion's den, just as I protected Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fire, just as I protected David when Saul pursued him. My child, the presence of danger does not mean the absence of my protection. The presence of battle does not mean the absence of my power. The presence of darkness does not mean the absence of my light. Listen carefully. The warning is real, but my protection is real too. Pause, there are angels assigned battles you never knew existed. There are prayers you forgot you prayed that are still echoing before heaven. There are mercies surrounding your life that your eyes have never fully seen. And there is a covering over you that darkness cannot penetrate unless you willingly step away from it. This is why I have been calling you closer. Not because I wish to control you, but because protection is found near me, peace is found near me, wisdom is found near me, safety is found near me. Pause, write in the comments, God is my protector. Write it with faith. Write it as a declaration. Write it as a reminder to your soul, because the enemy wants you focused on what threatens you. I want you focused on who protects you. And now that you remember my protection, there is something else you must understand, because protection alone is not enough. There is a calling upon your life, a higher standard, a sacred invitation, and that invitation will determine how much of my peace you carry into the days ahead. That is what I must reveal next, because holiness is not what you think it is. My beloved child, when many people hear the word holiness, they immediately think of rules, restrictions, requirements, limitations. They imagine a life filled with pressure, a life where joy disappears, a life where freedom is lost. But my child, that is not holiness, not the holiness I'm calling you into. Pause, there is a soul listening right now who has misunderstood my invitation. You thought holiness was something I demanded to make your life harder. You thought obedience was a burden. You thought surrender meant losing control. But what if holiness is actually protection? What if obedience is actually freedom? What if surrender is actually the safest place your soul can be? Listen carefully, because this may change everything. The enemy has spent years convincing people that freedom means doing whatever they want. But look carefully at the lives of those who follow every impulse, every desire, every temptation, every emotion. Are they truly free, or are they simply enslaved by different masters? Pause, there is a person hearing this tonight who has been carrying wounds that began with small compromises. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious. Just small moments, small decisions, small agreements, small delays, a little bitterness left unresolved, a little unforgiveness left untouched, a little pride left unchallenged, a little disobedience left uncorrected. Over time, those small things became open doors, because darkness rarely enters through dramatic rebellion. More often, it enters through tolerated compromise. The warning is real. Do not ignore the small things. The warning is real. Do not ignore the small things. Pause, my child. Holiness is not about earning my love. You already have my love. Holiness is about protecting your heart, protecting your mind, protecting your peace, protecting your destiny. When I tell you to forgive, it is not because the other person deserves it. It is because bitterness poisons the vessel that carries it. When I tell you to walk away from sin, it is not because I wish to punish you. It is because I see the destruction hidden beneath what appears attractive. When I call you to obedience, it is not because I want something from you. It is because I want something for you. Pause. There is a soul listening tonight who has been standing at a crossroads. Part of you wants to follow me completely. Part of you wants to keep holding on to something that is hurting you. You know what it is. I do not need to name it. Your spirit already knows. And tonight, I am gently asking you to release it. Not tomorrow, not next month, not when it becomes convenient. Now, because every step toward holiness is a step toward freedom. Every step toward obedience is a step toward peace. Every step toward surrender is a step toward protection. Pause. Write in the comments, I surrender completely. Write it with faith. Write it as a decision. Write it as an act of trust. Because holiness is not about becoming perfect overnight. It is about walking closer to me one step at a time. And my child, something powerful begins to happen when you take that step. The chains that once held you start to weaken. The confusion begins to lift. The darkness loses its influence. And blessings that seemed delayed begin moving toward you. Because your deliverance is already closer than you realize. In fact, it may have already begun. And that is what I must reveal next. My beloved child, what if I told you that the breakthrough you have been praying for is already closer than you realize? What if the answer is not approaching from a distant future, but has already begun moving beneath the surface? There is a soul listening to me right now who believes nothing has changed. You still see the same problems, the same challenges, the same unanswered questions, the same battles, and because your eyes cannot yet see the evidence, you assume nothing is happening. But my child, some of my greatest works begin invisibly. Pause. Think about a seed buried beneath the soil. For a season it appears lifeless, silent, hidden, unnoticed. Yet beneath the surface, life is already forming, roots are already growing, transformation is already underway. And by the time growth becomes visible, the miracle has been happening for much longer than anyone realized. Listen carefully, because this is where many people lose hope too soon. They judge my work by what they can currently see, but I am often working in places your eyes cannot reach. Pause. There is a person hearing this tonight who has been asking, Lord, where are you? Why haven't things changed? Why does the breakthrough seem delayed? My child, I hear every question, and tonight I tell you, the delay you see is not the absence of my activity. I have been working while you were waiting. I have been preparing while you were wondering. I have been arranging while you were worrying. I have been moving while you were doubting. The warning is real, but so is my promise. The battle is real, but so is my victory. Pause. There is a soul listening right now whose healing has already begun. Not because every wound has disappeared, but because your heart is no longer where it was before. You are stronger than you were, wiser than you were, closer to me than you were. And although the process feels slow, the transformation is real. There is another person hearing this tonight whose family situation seems impossible. You have cried over loved ones, prayed for restoration, prayed for reconciliation, prayed for peace, and you fear that nothing will ever change. But my child, do not confuse silence with inactivity. I am able to reach hearts you cannot reach. I am able to open doors you cannot open. I am able to restore what seems beyond repair. Pause. There is someone listening tonight who has worried constantly about provision, bills, responsibilities, financial uncertainty. You have wondered whether you will have enough, whether things will work out, whether help will arrive in time, and fear has whispered that you are alone. But I tell you now, I am still Jehovah Jireh. I am still your provider. I have not forgotten your needs. I have not overlooked your struggles. I have not abandoned your future. Listen carefully. Do not let fear write conclusions before my promises have finished unfolding. Pause. Write in the comments, my deliverance has begun. Write it with faith. Write it even if you cannot yet see the evidence. Because faith often sees what circumstances cannot. And tonight, something is shifting. Chains are breaking. Hope is returning. Strength is rising. Peace is entering places that have known fear for far too long. The darkness is losing ground. The light is advancing. And your story is not ending in defeat. It is moving toward victory. But before this message ends, there is one final warning I must give you, a warning that may determine what happens next. And my child, you cannot afford to ignore it. My beloved child, before this message comes to an end, there is one final warning I must place before your heart. Not a warning of condemnation, not a warning of punishment, but a warning born from love. The kind of warning a father gives when he sees danger approaching his child long before the child sees it for themselves. Listen carefully, because what I am about to say may be the most important thing you hear tonight. Pause. There is a soul listening right now who feels relieved after hearing these words. You feel hope returning. You feel peace beginning to rise. You feel strength slowly coming back. And that is beautiful. But my child, this is exactly the moment when many people become vulnerable again. Not during the battle, after the battle. Not during the storm, after the storm. Because once the pressure begins to lift, people often become careless. They stop washing. They stop praying. They stop guarding their hearts. They stop protecting what had been restored. And little by little, they drift back toward the very things that once wounded them. Pause. There is someone hearing this tonight who has repeated the same cycle more than once. You prayed, you surrendered, you felt freedom, you felt breakthrough, but after some time passed, old habits return, old fears return, old compromises return, old voices return, not because my power failed, but because vigilance faded. Listen carefully. The warning is real. Do not return to what I delivered you from. The warning is real. Do not return to what nearly destroyed you. Pause. The enemy knows he can no longer deceive you the same way he once did, so he will attempt something different. He will try to convince you that small compromises do not matter. A little bitterness, a little resentment, a little pride, a little delay, a little disobedience, a little distance from my presence. Nothing dramatic, nothing obvious, just enough to slowly pull your heart away from where your protection is found. Because the enemy understands something many people forget. Great falls rarely begin with great decisions. They begin with small permissions, small agreements, small neglect, small delays, and eventually, small things become large consequences. Pause, my child. Guard your heart. Guard your mind. Guard your spirit. Guard the peace I'm restoring within you. Protect what heaven is healing. Protect what heaven is rebuilding. Protect what heaven is blessing. Do not allow fear to reclaim territory that faith has already won. Do not allow darkness to move back into places my light has already entered. Choose life. Again, 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 every day. Choose life when fear speaks. Choose life when doubt whispers. Choose life when discouragement appears. Choose life when delay seems easier than obedience. The time is now. Do not delay. The time is now. Do not delay. Pause. There is a reason this message found you tonight. Because heaven is calling you into a new season. A season where fear no longer leads you. A season where compromise no longer controls you. A season where my voice becomes clearer than the voice of darkness. But my beloved child, what happens next depends on the choices you make after this moment. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Now. Because every destiny is built one decision at a time. And tonight, you stand at the edge of one of those decisions. Write in the comments, I choose God's way. Write it with conviction. Write it as a covenant. Write it as a declaration before heaven. Because I have spoken. The warning has been given. The truth has been revealed. And now, my child, one final blessing remains. One final message of hope. One final assurance from my heart to yours. And that is what I will leave with you next. My beloved child, before you leave tonight, before the noise of the world returns, before fear attempts to speak again, I want you to hear my voice one more time. Listen carefully, because this is not how your story ends. Pause. There is a soul listening right now who has spent too many years believing they were forgotten. Too many years believing they were broken beyond repair. Too many years believing they had missed their opportunity. Too many years believing they were fighting alone. But my child, none of those things were ever true. I was with you in every valley. I was with you in every battle. I was with you in every disappointment. I was with you in every sleepless night. I was with you when nobody else understood. I was with you when your tears fell in secret. I was with you when your faith felt weak. And I'm with you now. Pause. The darkness told you that you would never recover, that you are still standing. Fear told you that you would never survive, that you are still here. The enemy told you that your future was finished, that your story continues, because what I have spoken over your life has not changed. My plans have not changed. My promises have not changed. My love has not changed. And my child, I do not abandon what belongs to. Pause. There will be days ahead when you are tempted to doubt again, days when circumstances appear confusing, days when answers seem delayed, days when fear tries to return. When those moments come, remember this night. Remember this message. Remember that I warned you. Remember that I called you. Remember that I protected you. Remember that I strengthened you. Remember that I never left you. The warning was real, but my protection is real. The battle was real, but my victory is real. The darkness was real, but my light is greater, always greater. Pause. There is a new chapter beginning. Perhaps you cannot fully see it yet. Perhaps you cannot fully understand it yet. But heaven is already moving. Doors are being prepared. Hearts are being touched. Chains are being broken. Paths are being cleared. and what looks impossible today may soon become the testimony that strengthens someone else's faith tomorrow. Do not give up now. Do not turn back now. Do not surrender to fear now. The time is now. Choose life. The time is now. Choose faith. The time is now. Choose me. Pause right in the comments. Jesus, I choose you. Let that be your declaration tonight. If this message spoke directly to your heart, subscribe to this channel. Share this message with someone who needs to hear it, and help this word reach the soul heaven intended to reach. My beloved child, rest tonight. Do not fear tomorrow. I'm already there. I have spoken. I have warned you. I have called you. I have covered you, and now the choice is yours.